1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. We're finally ready. NBA Finals. Let's go. Pacers Thunder, game 1 in Oak City. Let's bring on Sam Amico, Hoops Wire, joining us here on the show today. Samuel, good afternoon. How's your Thursday going?
It's not bad, Sam. Staying active, on the website, which is no different now than it is in October, August, January, name the month.
I know you've been pounding away, my friend. Good stuff out there. There's really never a dull moment. I remember growing up way back then, we would go days without, we didn't know about stuff that was going on. Then we couldn't talk about it. And now it's like it seems like every 15 seconds, breaking news, something's going on. And you do a great job keeping us in touch there and keep on doing your thing. All right, finally, we're going to play some basketball tonight. And it looks like the experts feel that this is going to be a rout tonight. Oklahoma City is gearing toward being a 10-point favorite tonight. How do you see game 1 shaking out with the Thunder and Pacers tonight, Sam?
Well, my first thought about the finals is everybody seems to be way underrating what Indiana has done. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of been the whole playoffs, really, since January 1st. But, these are the top 2 teams since the start of 2025. Since January 1st, these 2 teams have compiled the best record. And, I think it's going to be very interesting. Indiana has more potential, I would say, to collapse a little bit, though we haven't seen that. We also saw the Thunder lose by like 44 points to the Timberwolves in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. So, it's hard for me to predict other than, yes, the Thunder have home court advantage. They're going to be at home. It's going to be crazy there. But we have to keep in mind, Sam, and this is an incredibly wishy-washy answer, but Indiana won the first 2 games on the road of each of the previous series.
Yep.
So they beat the Cavs in Cleveland the first 2 games. They beat the Knicks in New York the first 2 games. So they've been very proficient, very good on the road. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City hasn't, has been practically unstoppable at home, and the playoffs are really anywhere. So, I'm going to go with Oklahoma City because it's the smart pick, but I really think that this is a series that could potentially go 7 games and be really tight throughout.
Yeah, Sammy, I don't guarantee anything in life, but I really think this is going to go 6. I think Oklahoma City wins. I wouldn't shock me if the alternate happened, but I think and I'm with you. I think the Indiana Pacers, for whatever reason, people are watching them. Either they don't appreciate what they're seeing, or they don't think that they can keep it up or take it up another half level against a talented team like OKC. I like the chances with Indiana. I love what Rick Carlisle does. I love how he coaches, and I love when you think Indiana, they may lose a gallon or 2 from their tank, and all of a sudden, boom, it's an 8-10-0 run. That's how they play.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And they have, as we've seen through the playoffs, it's not just Halliburton, Siakam, Miles Turner, these other guys like Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard. These guys are hitting shots. Obi Toppin's coming off the bench and hitting shots. Benedict Mathurin comes in, hits shots. He's, an irritant to the opponent. They have a lot of guys and play a very similar style when it comes to bench, toughness, ball movement as the Thunder. So these 2 teams, really mirror each other in many ways. Oftentimes, and I even, which is rare because I've been doing this so long that I just turn on the game and watch it. Mm-hmm. But I've even gone ahead of it, gotten ahead of it and looked at the potential matchups. And I'm like, my gosh, this series, if everybody plays well, nobody lays an egg. Mm-hmm. If you don't have 2 or 3 guys coming out for Indiana or 2 or 3 guys coming out for Oklahoma City and laying an egg because this is the finals. These matchups to me it's like, gosh, this is dead even, the way they've been playing in the playoffs at least. So, yeah, I think it has the makings of, somebody rising as a star, and usually you go with the team that has the best player, right? You usually pick a NBA MVP, his team, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That team's going to win. But I just think Indiana just has so many weapons, and the way they run their offense, it really could be up for grabs.
Sam Amico is our guest here on the program, AM 1310 WDPN. Check him out, HoopsWire, Amico Hoops. He's got it all rolling for you on X. Check him out. So I know everybody's a professional. Everybody's tough. Everybody wants to win. They're going to play hard. But just for fun, Sammy, between these two teams, who's the tougher team? Who's got a little bit more grit? Would it be Indiana or no?
Yeah, I would. That's another thing I've gone back and forth on. So you're probably going to get another wishy-washy answer. But I would probably lean toward slightly Indiana, and very slightly, because Oklahoma City has guys that like to mix it up, and Lou Dort and Jalen Williams, and those guys, Isaiah Hartenstein. Those guys are just fine mixing it up and banging around. Alex Caruso, obviously one of the toughest defenders in the league, and gets very physical. I mean, he defended Nikola Jokic in that Denver series. So it's hard to pick, but Indiana, you think about, Nesmith and Nembhard are two excellent defenders. Toppin is a guy who's super athletic that comes off the bench, and they just play with a lot of swagger. If you watch that team, a little bit of cockiness. And Halliburton's not known as a tough player, but he's tough-minded.
Yep.
So I think that, if I had to give an edge, it would be Indiana, but it would be by a whisker.
Let's talk about environments. I've been to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I think it's hoops heaven, man. It's almost a college atmosphere. The way they built the place, there's not a bad seat in the house. It's fantastic. I've never been to OKC. But what I see on TV, it looks like it could be a very hostile place to go. Who's got the more intimidating home court advantage here?
Well, I've been to both, and they're both pretty scary. I'll tell you that much. It gets incredibly loud in there. Again, I think Indiana's, I was in Indiana Wednesday and yesterday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday and Wednesday, whenever it was. But it's, people are walking around with T-shirts that say, basketball was invented in Massachusetts, but it was perfected in Indiana, or, the 49 other states like and love basketball, but this is Indiana. So, I mean, Indiana has that rich tradition. They've really been big on the Pacers since their ABA days. And both, like you said, you've been to Gainbridge in Indiana, and it's always rocking. But Oklahoma City's the Thunder are the only show in town when you're talking about Major League sports. So that building rocks a lot too. I can't answer fairly. I guess we'd have to go to both games. Where are our final credentials, Sam? We better head over there.
That's right. Let's go, Sammy. All right, let's move off the finals. I think it's going to be great. I'm thinking 6, maybe 7. It'll be fun. We'll enjoy it. I want to turn the page back a couple of days and talk about the firing of Tom Thibodeau from the New York Knicks. This act of firing has seen a lot of vengeance from a lot of people the last couple of days. In your mind, what was the reason that New York decided to let go?
I think, and Rick Carlisle said it best yesterday at Finals Media Day when he first saw it. He said his quote was, "I thought it was one of those fake AI generated things."
I saw that. Yep.
So I thought that's what was the case. But I will tell you this, Sam, when I was sitting there watching the Knicks, and I think Tom Thibodeau is a great coach, but I just thought, man, he's very, very stubborn.
Oh yeah.
And Karl Anthony Towns wasn't bringing it for 3 quarters. He just put him on the bench. Just put him on the bench for, the whole 4th quarter. And I thought, you got to bring him back in. I mean, he's your second best player. And it wasn't even like a shot at Towns. It was just, that's the Thibodeau way. And there were a couple of times, and I'm not saying they would have won the series if he had brought him back in, but I thought there were a couple of times that I watched the series and thought, I think Indiana's playing out of their minds, but I don't think the Knicks are countering very well. And if I'm, just some guy in Northeast Ohio sitting there thinking that, that the GM and the owner are probably, the Knicks owner are probably sitting there thinking the same thing. And he'd been there 5 years with basically the same core. And, Larry Bird's line used to be after 3 years, you need a new voice. And he stepped down as Pacers coach after 3 years.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I think that maybe that's what they're just, hey, look, we have a coach, we have a team in place here that's pretty doggone good, got to these finals. We don't believe this coach is going to get us over the hump. That's what it came down to. And now you try to go out and find a guy that you think, okay, somebody maybe a little more flexible, a little more, is going to play the bench more and make it easier maybe to sign free agents because they know they're not going to be sitting on the bench from November until whenever, as soon as they sign. So, I think that they just looked at it probably like the Cavs did JB Bickerstaff, right? It's like he got us to this certain level, which is great, but we need somebody else to try to get us over the top.
Well, the next follow-up would be, who's the new coach going to be? Does Michael Malone have the inside track? What do you think?
I haven't heard Malone or Taylor Jenkins, who was surprisingly fired in Memphis a week before Malone. I haven't heard them linked to those jobs. Doesn't mean they aren't, but it was certainly hearing a lot of Cavs associate head coach Johnny Bryant, who held that position in New York before this season. I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks go with either, a longtime assistant like a James Borrego, who was in the running for the Cavs job last year with the Pelicans, who has head coaching experience with Charlotte and Orlando. But, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that they're going to make a huge splash. You never know, though. Malone could creep in there because he certainly has that New York personality, and he certainly did some fantastic things in Denver. So I think it'll be very interesting. I think if you're asking me right now, I would say Johnny Bryant, who lost out on the Suns job to Cavs assistant Jordan Ott. I would say Johnny Bryant's probably the number one guy being linked to that job in New York.
Interesting. Well, then let's flip this over now. Kenny Atkinson's got to go shopping now for some assistant coaches. What direction will that lead him?
Yeah, I think that he's got, you talk about a guy who's been around the NBA since 1999 at least as an assistant. He's made a lot of friends. I think that, Johnny Bryant would be, and this isn't a shot at Jordan Ott, but because all of them, Jordan Ott, Johnny Bryant, only been there a year in Cleveland.
Right.
I think that you have to, Johnny Bryant would probably be considered a bigger loss because he's the top assistant. He's kind of the Donovan Mitchell whisperer. So you'd have to, Kenny Atkinson, you have to find somebody who can kind of get in the players' ears when you're not around. And that's the kind of guy he would look for, even just losing Jordan Ott. But if he loses Johnny Bryant, that would especially be the case.
I just found myself chuckling at my own question. Like, Kenny's got to go shopping. I'm like, wait a minute. They already have 27 assistant coaches. I mean, do they really need to go get a few more? It seems like every NBA team, they take up 4 full rows behind the bench with assistant coaches with clipboards and computers. But I digress. Let's talk about the state of the NBA right now, the landscape of the NBA. How healthy is it? How do you think it will be moving forward as far as how people consume the product with the move from TNT? NBC is going to pick it up, the big show. TNT is going over to ESPN now. It's a younger league, different faces of the league. How do you see the NBA now, Sammy, in 25, and maybe take us to maybe 2030, 2035? How might it look then?
Yeah, I've been probably one of the biggest people who have repeatedly come out against the NBA and the way they've done things and the style that they play and their TV ratings tanking. And, I've been a voice that annoys the NBA over the years, in that sense. But the last 2 seasons, I've been incredibly impressed with the way the league has, number one, created parity through the new collective bargaining agreement. You have 2 small market teams in the NBA final. And there's no winning with fans because, listen, fan is short for fanatic, and I get it, because I'm a fan of the Cleveland Browns and I act like an idiot when I'm watching them, probably even when I'm not, but even more of an idiot. So I get the passion, but you have this, base of the fans that kept saying, oh, it's rigged. The NBA always makes sure a big market is in the finals, and it's always the Lakers or Golden State or Boston or somebody big market. And now you don't have it. Now the fans are saying, well, I'm not going to watch. I don't know. Right. So these 2 small markets, no, ratings are going to stink. So I look at the way the product now, and I do think that there's too many 3-pointers being taken league-wide.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest issue. But is that really an issue? It's like, okay, the style of basketball has changed. I think the pendulum's going to start swinging the other way a little bit, where the mid-range game comes back in. I think the league will introduce some rules to help that. But I think, to answer your question, Sam, I think it's in a great state. I've enjoyed NBA basketball more over the last 4 or 5 seasons than probably that. I think that decade beforehand, where we started to get, it was just too much with the stars. And we all love LeBron James for what he did in Cleveland, but it was like LeBron exhaustion, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. You just got sick of hearing about them. And now I think it's become more about the teams. You look at teams like the Cavs, the Pacers, the Thunder, the list goes on, the Denver Nuggets. It's about the teams now. And while there are still star players and faces of the league, it's not everybody trying to form a big 3. It's the opposite of that. It's let's build the right way because this is what will happen. We'll get to the finals. So I think that makes it healthy and more enjoyable for fans. And Sam, I'm so shocked at how positive I've been about the NBA over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Just how much I've enjoyed it and seeing how teams are being built. And there's nothing wrong with a big 3. It just feels dirty.
Yeah,
exactly. This feels we're building teams the right way. And guess what? The window is wide open. We've had 7 straight years of a new champion every year. First in NBA history. That didn't even happen in the 70s.
Right.
When it was nothing but parity. So I just think that the league, from a fan standpoint, I am enjoying this more than any other time in the modern era, except, of course, when I was going up to cover LeBron James and every game was an event. But from a fan standpoint, this has just been, to me, fantastic. I know a lot of fans that they want the stars and the big 3s and all that. Not a lot, but there's a segment of them. But I think most are on board with this. Hey, you know what? Every year we go in 0-0. We don't say, well, the team X is winning it, so why should I care? You never know.
Yeah. I like it, Sam. I think they've finally gotten it. They've finally come around. Maybe they're taking a page out of the NFL handbook. I don't know, but they've finally gotten it. People now, it's like, hey, my team's got a shot. My team's got a shot before we open training camp. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask. Sam Amico, check him out. Hoops Wire, Amico Hoops. Check him out on X, on Twitter, whatever you call it nowadays. He is fantastic. Sammy, thanks for the time. Enjoy the finals, okay?
All right, Sam. Thanks for having me. Great to talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. There he goes. Sam Amico stopping by here on 1310 WDP.